Hey guys, I'm the Ham Slam Man. We're gonna be talking about Zelda. Which one? The one that started all on the NES, The Legend of Zelda. I'm gonna go through the whole series eventually, but we're gonna start from the beginning.
Released in 1986 on the Famicom Disk System and year later on the NES, The Legend of Zelda is the game that started it all. It's an adventure game where you roam Hyrule completely free. This is a big deal for the time. Most games were linear score based games. Zelda broke this convention though, as this is a fully open world that you're able to explore. Go no time limit, no score at all. When it came out, like I recall hearing about how so many people played Zelda. Both of my parents did. Me, I didn't play it until I was 7 on the Zelda Collector's Edition on GameCube. I saw it as like, okay, it's the first game, but like I didn't care. I had better Zelda games to play. Instead, I watched my dad play it. Though I do touch it on the NES Classic Edition, Nintendo Switch Online. However, on my laptop, I finally beat the game. Basically, you are a boy in green called Link, no matter what name you put in the beginning of the game. You gather the Triforce of Wisdom pieces. You do this because you need it to enter Death Mountain. So you get the 8 Triforce pieces in the 8 dungeons, enter Death Mountain, beat Ganon, get the Triforce of Power, head and save Zelda. It's a simple story for sure. At the time, though, there were no Sony movie games. Not even Dragon Quest One or Final Fantasy had come out when the game was originally released in Japan. Despite this, you know what? It's got a decent story. You know, Link in this journey is in a top-down perspective. You fight with a dinky sword with the ability to shoot a beam at full health. You're able to explore and find items, kill enemies, and get rupees. Find bombs and bomb walls and burn bushes to find rupees and heart containers. Sometimes when you break down a wall or burn a bush, you'll find an old man who asks you for door repair. These guys suck because like you have to pay for the door repair. If I noticed that like there's only old men and women in Hyrule. No wonder Hyrule's dead. You find dungeons as you explore Hyrule. All of them are conveniently numbered, which actually helps, considering that you probably need the item from the previous dungeon to continue through the next numbered dungeon. You're able to acquire other items in the game aside from the sword. Some future mainstays appear like the bow and arrow, boomerangs, and bombs. Some other more unique items like the magic rod appear. There are also situational items like the raft and ladder, which exist for traversing through certain areas. By being a boss of the dungeon or finding it in the world map, you're able to find heart containers, which increase your maximum life up by 1 heart. Defense can be raised with the blue and red rings, cutting your defense in half for each ring. One thing featured in pretty much all Zelda games are the dungeons. In the first games, most dungeons are simply enemy gauntlets. You often push blocks to open doors. However, the last couple of dungeons are labyrinths that you pretty much get lost in. Dungeon 5, there are 3 dodongos you have to kill to gain access to the flute found in the dungeon, which is required pretty much required to beat the boss. of that dungeon. To kill Dodongos, they need bombs. This is annoying though, considering how bombs are more rare to find than in like other games. In Dungeon 7, you have to constantly bomb in order to find the boss chamber and the candle, the red candle in that dungeon. In the same dungeon, you get the weird grumble guy who wants meat. And I actually kind of like that moment because like the guy is he just wants some meat, you know. And he'll leave you alone once you give it to him. Dungeon 9, Death Mountain is a complete labyrinth. There's so much bombing you have to do in that dungeon. Combat is very simplistic. Most enemies like Octoroks and Stalfos will die in a couple of sword slashes. I often use the boomerang to stun enemies, though there are some late game enemies that the boomerang is useless against. While I'm not in full health, I use the bow and arrow or magic rod to defeat enemies for long range combat. My least favorite enemy in the game, though, the Dark Nut, is not affected by anything except the sword. The only way to defeat it is to go around the Dark Nut and stab him. At least the sword beam hurts him. One other unique enemy I want to talk about is the Pole's voice, where the original Japanese version, you had to kill it with a microphone on the second player controller. Because the NES controller doesn't have one, you can just use the change it so arrows can kill them. First Zelda games, bosses are not interesting. I think they're easier to take care of than a group of Dark Nuts. Dodongo is probably the second most famous boss in the game due to the really famous Dodongo dislikes smoke hint. All you do is drop bomb in its mouth and it goes out. They're the two dragon bosses. I lumped them together because they're both dragons, but I think they're both the best fights in the game because like there's some like action you have to dodge flames, dodge attacks. There's Digger Dogger, which is a complete joke once you play the flute. Then there's Manhandler, which it's not a complete joke. Like you need to use a long range attack to take it down, but once you have it, like the bow and arrow, it'll go down really fast. Then there's Goma, which is really easy. Then there's the final challenge of the game, Ganon. Ganon's the hardest boss in the game. He's invisible until you hit him with your sword. At this point, you shoot him with a silver arrow and he'll go down really fast, though. You actually kill him because he turns into ash. Despite my jokiness, I guess, I find the game extremely charming. For the first Zelda game, it establishes a lot of traditions, like collecting items, and a bunch of the enemies come from this game. I like how open this game is. You're able to grab most items in any order outside of the dungeon order. If you're crazy enough, you can even beat the game without grabbing any sword. There's even a second quest which provides a more challenging adventure with stronger enemies. I didn't do the second quest, and my first quest was enough for me. I think I'm doing it sometime, but not now. There's also a SNES remake on the Teleview service, which is dubbed the third quest. I'll probably do that sometime, I guess. Because this game's success, like it led the whole Zelda series being created, being established with like sequels, spin-offs, guest appearances in Super Smash Bros. There's this one, my favorite Zelda, Absolutely not. But I kind of like it. I still like it. I was trying to rank all the Zelda games as I play them all over again. Of the ones I have played as of making well starting this journey, you could say this is the best one because it's the only one I've played for it so far. Though I guarantee you this game will probably be somewhere near the bottom because of how good the other Zelda games are. Still, you should play this for like just to see how it started. See how adventure games evolved in general. I'll see you next time with the Zelda 2 because I love Zelda 2, guys.